Let's say I'm an expert in self-sabotage. I help people I help people who struggle thinking that they are not good enough, all these self-doubts.
Okay, Laura. So it's great to see you, and thank you very much for agreeing to do our Side Hustle and Startups podcast today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I was really looking forward to our conversation here.
Excellent. And what's really good for our listeners and our viewers is that we've only ever had like a brief conversation before. And I didn't, if you remember, I said, I don't want to ask you all the questions I really want to ask you now. I want to wait till we do the podcast because that way it's going to be great for everyone who's listening and watching because they're going to get to learn everything about you at the same time as I do. So that should be good for our listeners and our viewers.
Okay, wonderful. Yes.
All right, brilliant. So, well, if you wouldn't mind starting then, Laura, would you introduce yourself and just please give everyone a bit of a snapshot of what you do and who you are?
Yes, so let's say I'm an expert in self-sabotage. I help people I help people who struggle thinking that they are not good enough, all these self-doubts, these limiting beliefs that we all at some level have, that we think we are not adequate, we are not good enough. If we do something, we are going to become unlovable, not judged properly, etc., etc. So I really like working with these kind of worries and fears because they can make us feel stuck and hold back and not grab life and opportunities and do the things that we can do. So this is what I specialize in. And I'm also a hypnotherapist, a coach, a mindfulness meditation teacher. I studied NLP. So I use all these teachings and experiences and tools in my practice.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. There's so much there I want to ask you. So let me start off with, so do you do this as your full-time career? And if you do, how long has it been full-time for you? And maybe, how did you transition from when you started finding it interesting to maybe doing some training to then getting clients to then becoming full-time? So if you could share that bit of information with us, please.
Yeah. So my first job was actually in advertising, so something completely different. But after around a decade working in that field, I realized that it was not what I wanted to do. And always been very interested in the mind. My hero when I was a young girl, like a child, and also later on, it was Yoda. I don't know how much you know about Star Wars, but that little character, because it made such a huge impression on me because of how, with the power of his mind, he could win every battle and he could move objects with the power of his thoughts just by being very calm and controlling his mind. So I've been very attracted by the mind, and I always thought that our mind is very powerful and we don't use all of its power. Then when I became pregnant of my daughter, who's now a teenager almost, I practice hypnobirthing. So I attended a course, which is a technique to give birth using the power of our mind to uncondition ourselves from the fact that the idea that giving birth is painful. And it was such an incredible experience that I thought I felt like a call. I need to share this with many women because they are losing an important, they're wasting this moment in their life. And so I became a hypnobirthing practitioner, and taking the qualifications implied to study a little bit of hypnosis. That made my mind explode with interest. So after that, I became a hypnotherapist. which led me to become a mindfulness meditation teacher, because I practice yoga, and so I've been practicing meditation, but I really wanted to teach mindfulness with a particular focus on self-compassion, which really helps dealing with all this idea that we need to be perfect all the time. And that led me to this interest very much in those self-doubt thoughts that pop in our mind so often. Because by experience, you can really liberate yourself if you know how to deal with them. So that more or less has been my journey. And this is my full-time job. And I've been doing it. I never know exactly when to say I started, but I think it's been around a decade.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. So yeah, Yoda. I mean, there's probably a lot of people watching and listening found that interesting that you related to little Yoda. And it's true though, isn't it? That there are times in our lives when something might happen to us. And for you, you were quite young when you really got that little bit of insightful inspiration or idea, and it triggered that inside of you, and that became really a significant part of your life, and it's led you on this journey, which is fascinating, isn't it? So, okay, would you mind sharing a little bit? I made a couple of notes because there's some really interesting information you're sharing, and I wanted to make sure I didn't lose some of the key things I wanted to ask. Would you just share with everyone a little bit about, um, hypnosis? You mentioned NLP. You mentioned mindfulness, meditation. Would you just give us a little brief explanation for people that maybe know nothing about what these different things are, please?
I think that somehow they're all related. And so let's start with hypnosis. Hypnosis means that I hypnotize people, but there's nothing strange in that, because I don't really hypnotize anyone. I just guide people into self-hypnosis. And when we are in a state of hypnosis, which technically is called trance, we are actually very aware of what is happening. So it's the opposite of what we can imagine if we haven't experienced hypnosis. So the state of hypnosis is so natural that we are in a state of hypnosis several times every day, naturally. Mm, I don't know if you like reading books, fiction books. So at first, when you start a new paragraph, you grab your book, and at first you are a little bit in the story, but very much in your head, your to-do list and other things. Then if you're like me, you need to read the first paragraphs a few times because you're so much into your head. But then when you get into the story, you are in another world. You can hear the voice of the characters, imagine how they move, what they feel. You may even feel worry for them, happy for them, cry, laugh. And this is a state of hypnosis. You are somewhere else with your mind, although you know where you are. If somebody passes by and asks you, hey, do we have milk? You say, yes, we do, but you're still in the story. So this is a state of hypnosis. And how many times we want to go somewhere and we end up being somewhere else simply because we are so much in our head, another state of hypnosis. So the state of hypnosis is very normal. The beauty of this state is that we go into our subconscious mind. So we have these two parts of our mind, the conscious and the subconscious. Both are good, both of them. We need both of them. The conscious is the logical side, is our logical intelligence. I like it, I don't like it. I'm gonna do this now, to-do list and all this is in the logical mind. Willpower is very logical. But all the automated things like the way we move, the way we talk, breathing, digesting, sweating, all the automated stuff happening to us that we do without thinking, this is regulated by the subconscious mind. So, you know, all these thoughts that pop in our mind that say, don't do this. You're not good enough to do this. You don't have what it takes. Or others are much better. Don't participate to this talk. Don't go onto the stage. Don't do this. Don't do that. Well, these are automated thoughts. They are in the subconscious mind. They're programs. So if you use your willpower to deal with something that is in your subconscious mind, you can, but the willpower needs to be very strong. If you find a gateway to the subconscious mind, things are much easier. And that's why hypnosis is great, is because it's a gateway to the subconscious mind. But the power is in the person, is not in the hypnotherapist. So I can never make anyone do anything unless they want to. So I'm just a guide. NLP is similar, very similar to hypnotherapy. So it uses the power of the subconscious mind. It's very solution oriented. And mindfulness. Mindfulness sits a little bit in between, because when we are mindful, actually, we are very present. But then the head goes back to the thoughts and the to-do list and the past, the future, and then you guide it back to be present. So in my opinion, I like to put all the three together, because through mindfulness, you become aware of what is going on in your head. Because without mindfulness, we are so mindless that we have no idea of what these self-doubts are. Then once you are aware, you can use your willpower to try to change those messages, but sometimes it's not enough. And if it's not enough, you can use the gateway of the subconscious, so of hypnosis, to get to the subconscious mind and understand what are these thoughts about really. And when you understand, I have developed a system, like a solution to actually deal with these self-doubt thoughts, so that they are not going to interrupt any willingness you have to do something. Does it make sense?
Yeah, you've explained it really well, because I know a little bit about some of those things. I don't know a lot about meditation and mindfulness. I've never studied it. I've
Okay.
heard I've heard a little bit about it. Um, I've come across neuro-linguistic programming before, NLP, and I've actually been hypnotized as well. I had many years ago. I was involved with movie producing, only for a short time, um, and we had a film that we were premiering, and it was launched at this big cinema, and there was three cinema rooms at the same time, and the director, I was there as a producer, and we had to go in to each of the cinema rooms, and we had to introduce the film, give a little talk, and there was about 250 to 300 people in each of the rooms, from what I can recall. There was a lot of people in the rooms, and yeah, I was really nervous about it. So I had some hypnosis, and yeah, it was absolutely fine. In fact, I actually enjoyed it,
Mm.
which was really interesting. So my initial fears and doubts, where my mind wandered into the future and started to imagining things going wrong, was obviously very false. However, when I was imagining it going wrong, it felt very real. And so, what my hypnotherapist was able to do was to bring me back to the reality, and then take me on this different journey where it was an experience that I could enjoy. So yeah, that was really interesting. But thank you very much for explaining those. That's really helpful. So I've got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do now is talk about you as Laura, the businesswoman. So
Okay.
there's, we get a mixture of men, women, younger, older people listening and watching. Um, and it's always inspiring, I think, when someone that you can relate to is talking. And so, for the women out there who are maybe thinking of starting a business, what advice and guidance would you maybe give to them, that they might be able to relate to in regards to when you thought about doing what you do now?
Such a great question. So, when I actually decided to change completely my career, it wasn't an easy decision. But what I find now is that while before a day of work was draining my energy out of me, now when I work with my clients, I feel energized. So what I strongly invite people to do is do something that you love, and do it even if you think you're not ready. Just start before you think you're ready, because otherwise perfectionism will stop you. And then what I would also say is a bit what you did when you were in those cinema rooms, Richard. The power of imagination is strong, because I go back to conscious and subconscious mind. The conscious mind, the logical part of the mind, uses logic as language, but the subconscious mind doesn't use logic. And that's why willpower sometimes is not enough. It uses imagination. And that's why what I think the hypnotherapist made you do, it was to imagine that actually you were enjoying talking in those cinema rooms, and you felt all the positive emotions about being probably on the stage or wherever you were when you presented the movie. And it's a bit the same. So use the power of your imagination to tell your subconscious mind that you want to do this and you will be great. And see if you can really imagine yourself going into that direction. And your subconscious mind will help you, because you need to get alignment between conscious and subconscious. So this is a tip that really helps. In fact, I don't know if you know, sorry, I jumped on this, but even athletes do use these kind of techniques, and before races and important competitions, they actually imagine them performing really well. And when they tested this, they even noticed that muscles are actually working only when we imagine. And so this is an extremely successful way for athletes to train. And I think that works for everyone. We need to train our mind. Very important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting for people, that might be thinking about a side hustle or a startup idea. Like you say, find something that gets you excited, and like you say, something that you love. I remember coming across a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a really interesting book. Have you read it?
I read part of it, and I need to finish it because it's strong. It's a strong book.
It
It's
is,
like,
yeah.
and so little by bit, but it was what I read was incredible.
Yeah, like you say, it's a difficult book. As you work through it though and get towards the end, the second part of the book is about what Viktor Frankl developed, his own therapeutic style to help people, called logotherapy, and it was talking about. He talks about helping people find their reason why, and he says that it can start as an interest, and then can become something that you're passionate about, and then it becomes your purpose in life. And it's a little bit like you were describing, that you don't really go to work anymore. You just have a great day with your clients. Um,
Yes.
and it's like you've found your purpose in life, and therefore life all of a sudden becomes fulfilling, it becomes interesting, it becomes exciting. And so I think that's a great tip you've given, which is about find something that you're interested in and find something that you love. And then from my perspective as a business coach, because we help people that are trying to explore ideas, and then it becomes about looking at where there might be a potential business model inside what it is. that you love. And then actually you come to a bit of a junction, because, one thing I say to people is running a business and being an entrepreneur might not be for you. And you might want to think about that before you jump into it, because some people have got hobbies and things that they absolutely love, and that's their kind of own space where they get their own kind of life fulfillment, really. And so if you've got a career and you're earning good money, that, that in itself is fantastic. And so for you, your purpose in life might be the career, and then it might be about finding your own fulfillment around your hobby. You don't necessarily have to take that step into becoming an entrepreneur and, creating your own little business. It just depends if that's something that's burning away inside you and it becomes something that you can then do every day. So I don't know what you think about that.
True. And I think also, but you are the expert here, is that one thing takes you to another. And so you get the sparkle of the idea, but that may lead you to everything is an evolution. But yeah, it's hard work to be an entrepreneur because you are one man or one woman band. You do everything yourself. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and that's why what you want, it needs to be something that you really enjoy, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, exactly.
I remember Anthony Robbins, who you may have come across as an NLP expert, and I remember him talking about, if we're lucky enough, one day we'll all have a rocking chair moment. And you want to be sitting in your conservatory, on your porch, wherever it might be for you, at a coffee shop maybe, I don't know, but you're just sitting there and you're reflecting on your life. And I remember him saying that if you can have a life of no regrets, then that's a great life. And what you want to do is try things while while you've got your health, while you've got that ability, while you've got that desire and opportunity, because there'll come a day when you really won't have that choice again. And so it's about fulfillment and excitement, and that's what Yoda was very much wanting to help Luke, Luke Skywalker. He was wanting to support him on his journey of exploration, and what a journey he went on. looking out for Princess Leia.
My dad took me to the cinema. I think I was 6 or 7, 8 years old to watch the second episode that was released. So the fifth, but anyway. And that was the scene. It was when Yoda is training Luke Skywalker. And I was like, I think I fell in love with this little green creature. The power, so small and ugly, but so present, the ground, really grounded.
I think, well, let's link from that, because actually I think it's going to be important for our, because I like listening to this part that I'm going to share with you now. And I think our listeners and viewers will as well. And it's linking, going from that little fictional green character to how does that link to us? Because obviously that's not us. But some of the things that I've come across, one interesting study was actually of rats. And in the 1950s, it's not very nice what they did, but then they used to experiment on animals in the 50s and the 60s, didn't they? It was pretty cruel. But one of the experiments that they did at Harvard, I think it was, is they got these glass tubes and they filled them halfway with water, and then they would drop the rat into the water, and then they would time it to see how long it would be before it started to drown. So have a guess, time-wise, the average time, how long do you think the rat would tread water until they had to pull it out and stop it drowning?
I hope they did that.
No, they did. They did take them all out. But yeah, how long do you think it was before the rat went, you know what, I've had enough of this, and it started to drown?
I can't tell. 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Okay, so the average
was 5 minutes.
the average was 15 minutes. Okay. So on average, they keep going for 15 minutes. When they started to drown, they pull them out, and they would give them only about 30 seconds. I don't know if they put their lungs out all the water. I don't know what they did, but they let it kind of gather its thoughts again, I suppose. And then this is pretty bad. Then they put them straight back in, and they time them again. How long do you think it went for the second timing before they then gave up again?
Think longer.
Okay, say have a guess then.
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Average 60 hours.
What?
60 hours. And so the scientists were like totally shocked. And the summary that they came to was that the first time when the rat had given up, it then got rescued. And so in its mind now, they felt that it kept going because it was just waiting to get rescued again. So it kept going and it kept going, and it's thinking in a minute, in a minute, in a minute, and it kept going. And so if you think how small that rat is and how small its brain is, and yet it was capable through the power of thought to go from 15 minutes to 60 hours, you can see where I'm going with this. What are we capable of? You know, the size of our brain and the size of our imagination that you talked about before, linking into our subconscious. You know, it is absolutely unbelievable what we are capable of as human beings. And I think what's quite sad is that I think that teaching as a profession has lost or is missing an opportunity to help educate us as humans growing up, and to be able to say, do you know how amazing and how powerful your brain is? It leads your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And you know what? You can go to the moon with it if you want to. You know, and if you think about Elon Musk at the moment, you know, his mind is at Mars and beyond. That's where his mind is. And all he's trying to do now is just make matter kind of catch up with where his mind is. And I just think that it's worth us all, you know, just looking in the mirror and saying, it is absolutely unbelievable what we're capable of achieving. So therefore, why don't we remove the limits and, you know, go with these thoughts and ideas of what we can achieve?
Yes, Richard, yes. You know, I agree with you so much. So back to the were they mice or rats? Can't remember. Mice probably, I guess, were creatures. But I think that, you know, a lot of programming, so beliefs about us, happen when we are in a moment that is highly emotional. So imagine those mice drowning. Well, that was a lot of emotion, and then they got rescued, and that created the program, I'm gonna be rescued. So imagine if that worked for a mouse, for mice, imagine for human beings, and how many times we are in a difficult moment, we create some kind of protection, and because we worry to be embarrassed or to be told that we are not good enough or whatever, and yes, school has a big role in this, and families and everything, then we end up having so many automated thoughts about we're not good enough. And we hear them so often. I imagine that our head is full of them. They create so much noise that we can't hear them anymore because we are so used to them. But we listen to them and we follow. So we can't hear, but we listen and we follow them. So the first step is really becoming aware about what are my unique limiting thoughts, because they are unique for each of us. And when you identify them, you can work with them and not against them. Because if you go, and this unfortunately is our tendency, at war with them, you criticize them. Oh, if only this kind of thoughts were not there, then they will grow louder, because it's like you are not listening. They are just there to protect you. If instead you go to, I like to say, to a peace talk, just go on the table with the treaty and you just say to them, thank you, because you are trying to protect me. Simply, now I want to do this thing. You just want reassuring these thoughts. The mind is sending these thoughts because it's trying to protect you. So yes, school, teachers, curricula at school, families. I think there should be more education to the people that are responsible to educate kids.
Well, yeah, I agree, and I'd like to throw in a couple of other things that I've heard as as I've read my books, watched my videos, met people. I've
Yes.
got two more interesting ones, and then I think we should come up with a few tips for our listeners as well. See if we can help them, and then maybe we should talk about some type of a online event for the future where we could maybe come together, get some more people. I do want to do a conference, and so maybe again, if people are watching and listening, you're seeing thoughts and ideas here coming alive. Where I'd not mentioned that to you before, but this is how things happen, isn't it? Like you said, evolution. Um, so,
Yes.
so the other two things that I want to quickly mention. Number one, I remember a talk. It might have been Anthony Robbins again. This guy's got a little place in my mind, I think, where he's living. You've got Yoda. Anthony
Yeah.
Robbins is taking up a much bigger space. Have you seen how big he is? And he's about 6'7", I think. He's huge. So anyway, I remember him talking about the limiting beliefs that you mentioned, and he said he gave a great metaphor, and it was about elephants. So when elephants get captured in captivity in Asia, for example, if the mother elephant dies and maybe you get a baby elephant, and what they do is they tie a rope around one of its feet and they tie it to a tree, and the baby elephant pulls on the rope, and obviously it can't escape, and it keeps pulling, and after a while, like you said, it realizes there's a limit, and it won't work. There's no point pulling it because nothing's going to happen. And then it gets older and older, and it stops trying. And then, we might see an image of this grown elephant 15, 20 years later, and it's got this tiny, tiny, what looks like a piece of string now on its ankle. And we know it can just walk off and it can destroy the prison that it's built around, or that it imagines around itself. But the elephant forgets that. And I think it's the same for us, is that sometimes we don't realize what we're capable of because we're not seeing, we don't always see for ourselves the opportunity that actually is there for all of us. So there's that one. And then the other one, which I really love as well, another study that was done by scientists, and it was a schizophrenic patient, when people have split personalities. And what they found in this study, and I couldn't believe it, I went and I had a little read many years ago, and it said that when someone was one personality, let's say they got brown eyes and they got no scar on their arm, they then changed personality, their eyes changed to blue, and a scar appeared on their arm.
Wow. The power of the mind.
So yeah, anyone listening or watching again, we talked about Yoda earlier as an inspiration. However, there are examples in our lives as living and breathing humans that amazing things are possible. So I think what I'd like to say to everyone is, look, you can achieve anything you want to achieve. The only thing actually stopping you is you and your limiting beliefs. So maybe tomorrow you can wake up and see the world in a different way, and go and do all the things you've ever wanted to do, to be happy and successful in your life. So I think that's what I'd like to maybe share with everyone. What I'd like you to share, Laura, is what if you went back now to when you first started your career with the hypnobirthing, the hypnosis, the NLP, the meditation, what would you, I mean, this is interesting me asking this of you because you're a mindfulness thought expert, but what would you say to yourself all
Mm.
those 10 years ago if you could go back and give yourself a few tips and a few words of encouragement to get to where you are today? What would you tell yourself of 10 years ago, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
You know what I would say to myself? I would tell, listen to your intuition, that gut feeling that this is what you need to do. Um, you know, at first I was a bit stuck thinking about what should I do? What should I do? The perfect career for me. And this is a thought that is too difficult to handle. So I know perfectionism, it's something that can get us stuck. Many people, many of us, perfection does not exist. I think that you should try, try, try. And so the what I would say to myself is listen to your intuition, just go with it, go full swing, go. Mm.
So what you're saying is use the force.
I love this. Yes, the force is with you.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I do agree with that. Because for me it's teaching, whether it's one-to-one coaching or whether it's classroom teaching. That's my passion and that's my purpose. And that links us back to the Viktor Frankl book about, the book's called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's humanity's search for meaning, isn't it? And I think if you can find that passion and that purpose, that intuition, that force that's inside you, then if you can tune in with that, then I think you can lead a fulfilling life. And if that happens to be wrapped around a business model, then fine. If it doesn't, fine, then you can go down that career pathway. But I think to be happy and successful in life, which I think we all want, it's about finding a way of tuning in with the inner force, which intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, also because life doesn't start when we reach a goal. Life is now. So we need to enjoy the journey that takes us somewhere. The journey is what we have.
Oh, that is
So it's
just
the
brilliant.
present.
That is brilliant. And that's why it's called the present,
Yes.
because
Each moment.
that's where the opportunity is, isn't it? In the now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I may have mentioned this when we spoke last time, that often if you feel a bit depressed or fed up, it's often because you're going into the past and maybe wanting something that you maybe had before. And sometimes if you go into the future and you get anxious, it's because you're worrying again, like I said before. Whereas the opportunity, like you say, is in the now. I've written that down. I think what I'll do, Laura, is we'll share the links with you when we've edited the podcast and when it's live and when people are watching and listening. But I think I'm going to have to put up that life is about the now and it's about learning to enjoy the journey. And that's your quote.
I love it. My mantra is life is to enjoy. So it relates to this. And I think that you know a lot about mindfulness, Richard, because it's all about this. And it's so important, as you said so well. We ruminate about the past, we think about the future. But when we do that, we are not living what we have. And it takes practice to be in the present. That's why we need to train our mind to enjoy the present as much as possible, to grab opportunities when they come.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this back myself and listen to it again because I'm just making lots of notes for.
Amazing.
It's
Amazing.
it's great. It's great. Okay, so just to wrap up, Laura, because we're coming towards the end now. Do you know what? It's because we're so in the moment. We're nearly an hour already. I mean, it's just flying by, isn't it?
Wow. Mm.
So, quick question from a business perspective.
Yes.
How do you find your clients and how do you grow your business?
So At first, I went with Google Ads when I needed experience. Now I find them through word of mouth, but also I have an email an email list of people, and I write to them once a week or once every couple of weeks. And I really care about what I write. So I always tell stories that are, I hope, entertaining, but people seem to like my emails. And so I email them with tips every time. So that's one way. Sometimes I post on social media, but I'm not really disciplined with that. And sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. So when I'm kind of disciplined and I stay in touch with my clients is through my emails.
Yeah, and they lead to referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Referrals or clients are coming back for different things. But essentially, yes, like this. And people go in my list because they are my clients or because they subscribe to be on my list. Yeah,
So do
that's my.
you call, so when you email them, do you email them and do you call that like a weekly newsletter? Have you got a name for it? Or do they just get an email come through and it's from Laura and they're just catching up, you catching up
Yeah,
with them?
that's it. They get an email from me. I even wrote about Yoda once. Yeah, entertaining emails. So, for instance, I was writing the email of this week, today, and I will revise it until I'm really happy. And I'm talking about parrots and the fact that I had a parrot just being on top of my head once and picking on my eye. And that gets me to the idea of how when we are obsessed with thoughts, we are in a cage. And then when we open the cage, they become so confident that they even wanted to kiss my eye. So stories are like this in my emails. So no newsletter is more like an email from me.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing from a business perspective there, that we've come across and that we use as well is what's great about that is when you're making the first contacts, for example, with the Google ads, that's costing you money from a business perspective. So
Yeah.
finding new people can be expensive from a marketing perspective. However, I like what you've done where you're capturing and collecting email addresses. And then what that allows you to do then is now you've got someone in your direct contact, and that's now not costing you anything to stay in contact with them. And so, there's a little tip for anyone who's watching and listening again is to build your email database because there is a lot of value in building that for the future as well as for the now.
And what I like is that when I write, it's like I'm writing to one person and I'm giving tips. And that allows me to be in touch with them and to create this emotional connection. So I know that when I write, I'm going to help some of them, I hope. And I hope that people like to receive my emails, but that link is nice. I like it.
Great. Okay, so to wrap up then, to wrap up the podcast, I'd like to just finish with, would you share with us your vision of you and your business? Has your business got a name, or is it you as the business name? Yeah.
My name is my business is my name and last name.
Okay.
My vision, my vision would be to have, well, still working one-to-one with clients because I like that one-to-one very much. But I organize courses because, like you, I really love teaching. And so I love to have big courses. And my vision would be to organize retreats and get with a lot of people and help a lot of people all together. I love talking, so doing talks and things like that.
Oh, that's great because the vision for me acts like a North Star almost. It's like it pulls you, it's like a magnet to it. It like pulls you towards it. And so a little bit like you've talked about imagination, I found that it helps having that clarity of where you're moving towards. And thanks for sharing yours, because you can see that you're working towards that. And what we'll do is when we release this podcast, we'll put in links to any social media. So let us know that. We'll post those up as well. And hopefully people will come and have a look and find out about your retreats and your courses for the future. And if we can promote it, we'd love to. We're active on social media now, very active on Facebook, becoming more active on other social media platforms as well. Historically, we've been a B2B business, working with other businesses, but now we're moving across now to work more one-to-one with our academy and our business school that's coming. So we're very much what people call B2C now, business to consumer. So we're now becoming a lot more active on social. So we'll share what you do as well, and keep people connected. So
Thank you. I'm gonna share also something for free that I think will help with that vision you just mentioned now. So for me, it's a retreat. So it's like a hypno visualization where people can really visualize, first becoming aware of what the self-doubts are, because they are unique. Each of us has different self-doubts. And then what they can achieve if there's silence in the mind. And because to have that vision into the future is not so easy when it's not guided, because the self-doubts keep creeping in. I hope that will help, because having that vision, as you said, can be very motivating.
yeah, thank you. Well, definitely, yeah. If you would appreciate that, and then what we can do is we can share that with people, and we'll put that on social media, and we can put a link to it so that people can get that from you as well. So, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and thank you for sharing your business world with us, and sharing with you some of your personal experiences. And I'd love to come back and maybe chat again, and we'll do another podcast one day. And maybe you could share with us how your plans are going for your retreats and your courses. So we're going to be holding you to account now. So you're going to have to start moving the dreams into reality.
That's good. Motivation and accountability. Well, I must just say that I really enjoyed our conversation. I found it very inspiring. I love the stories you shared. And yeah, would really love to do it again. I have many more ideas now after our conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's been great to meet you, and I look forward to speaking again.
Me too. Thank you very much.